You still feel this impenetrable, invisible wall between you and everyone else.
Yeah, it's that profound realization that loneliness isn't just an empty room.
Exactly. It's the absence of meaningful connection. And today's deep dive looks at what it takes to survive that exact kind of profound isolation.
It's a really heavy topic, but an important one.
It really is. So we are examining a specific psychological journey today. We're looking at the quagmire era of the series Mushoku Tensei.
Which is such a fascinating case study for this.
Right. So in this part of the story, the protagonist, Rudius, has been abruptly separated from someone he deeply loves, and he hits absolute rock bottom. I mean, he is so consumed by despair that he earns the bleak moniker Quagmire.
And, it is a devastating place to be. But it serves as this incredibly powerful psychological lens for us. And I want to clarify right away, our mission today isn't to just recap a plot. You really don't need any prior knowledge of this story at all.
Yeah, we're not doing a standard anime review here.
Right, exactly. We're using this descent and his eventual recovery to answer one central question. Why does loneliness affect us so deeply, and how can a person learn to live with it and eventually overcome it without being completely consumed?
Because to understand the way out of that kind of darkness, we first have to understand, the mechanics of why it hurts so much to begin with.
Precisely. We have to look at the foundation of the pain.
Well, there is this common societal narrative that feeling lonely is somehow a personal feeling or like a sign of weakness.
Oh, the whole Sigma male or lone wolf thing?
Right. If you are strong and independent, you shouldn't need anyone. But looking at the biological reality, that perspective seems fundamentally flawed.
It is entirely flawed. I mean, humans are biologically wired to seek belonging. We are, at our core, pack animals.
We need the tribe to survive.
Exactly. So when our need for emotional attachment isn't met, our brains do not process it as a simple passing sadness.
Wait, so it's not just an emotional state?
No, the human brain actually registers social isolation in a way that is strikingly similar to physical pain.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yet the exact same neural pathways light up in a brain scan. So when someone is in that quagmire of depression and loneliness, they aren't just sad. They're experiencing a very real systemic ache.
That biological reality perfectly explains the physical symptoms of hitting rock bottom then. I mean, the word quagmire is so apt because when you are deeply depressed, it feels like you're stuck in literal mud.
Every single movement feels heavy.
Yeah, waking up requires immense effort, speaking requires effort, and the instinct is to just stop moving so you don't sink any further.
It's a complete system shutdown.
Right. And yet, one of the primary survival tactics that's used in the state in the source material is comparing his current misery to his former life as an isolated, completely withdrawn shut-in. He uses his own past rock bottom as a shield.
It is such a fascinating cognitive tool. He essentially tells himself, okay, this is agonizing, but it is not as bad as that time.
I have to challenge that approach, though. I mean, therapeutically isn't dwelling on your darkest past just a recipe for a depressive spiral.
Well,
Because we are usually told to look forward, to focus on the positive rather than constantly reminding ourselves of how agonizing our previous traumas were.
I get why you'd say that, but there is a crucial difference here between rumination and baseline anchoring.
Okay, what's the difference?
Rumination is dwelling on the pain and letting it consume you. It's spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
Anchoring is about relative comparison.
Like setting a marker.
Yes. When you are in a quagmire, your panic brain tells you that you are powerless and that the current situation is totally unsurvivable.
Because the pain feels infinite in the moment.
Exactly. So by consciously pointing to a worse despair from your past that you already survived, you provide a baseline of resilience.
Oh, I see.
It proves to your brain that your track record for surviving insurmountable odds is currently 100%. It is not about wallowing. It is about reclaiming a sense of durability.
So, you essentially establish a floor, you acknowledge that you are drowning right now, but you remind yourself of the time you couldn't even swim.
That's a great way to put it.
That makes total sense as a way to stop the immediate freefall. But once you stabilize, the danger of prolonged loneliness seems to shift, right?
It definitely mutates.
It goes from an acute panic to this chronic defensive posture. You start hiding who you really are just to avoid experiencing that pain again.
Which brings us to a really critical distinction. The difference between solitude and emotional isolation.
Because they aren't the same thing at all.
Not at all. Solitude is a healthy choice. It is taking deliberate time for self-reflection and, recharging your batteries.
Right.
But emotional isolation is a defense mechanism. It is building this impenetrable fortress around yourself because you are absolutely terrified of getting hurt again.
And the most insidious way we build that fortress is by creating a fake persona.
Yes. The polite mask.
The story illustrates this brilliantly. There's a character named Soldat who calls Rudius out for wearing this polite mask.
I love this detail from the original text.
Yeah, in the original Japanese, he actively hides his true personality by changing how he speaks. He uses the first-person pronoun boku, which is courteous and formal.
It creates a very deliberate distance.
Exactly, instead of his natural, rougher, and more genuine or. He isn't pushing people away aggressively, you know. He's keeping them away with excessive politeness.
And that polite mask is incredibly common in modern society, especially with, well, the illusion of connection that technology provides.
Oh, for sure. We curate these perfectly pleasant, completely inoffensive versions of ourselves online and at work.
But there is a massive psychological cost to that performance. When you constantly present a fake version of yourself to avoid friction or vulnerability, you experience immense emotional wear and tear.
Because it's exhausting.
It is. You are effectively acting on a stage every single minute of the day. If you wear a mask long enough to protect your face, you eventually forget what your actual face looks like.
Wow. You lose touch with your own genuine feelings.
Exactly.
So to the listener, I want you to think about your own daily interactions. Do you have a place, or maybe even just one person, where you can completely drop that polite mask and exist as your unedited self?
It's a tough question for a lot of people.
Because if there isn't, that performance will eventually hollow you out, even if you appear perfectly functional to the outside world.
You'll look fine, but inside you're crumbling.
Right. But this creates a paradox. If you are deeply lonely and completely terrified of being hurt, taking off the mask feels like jumping out of a plane without a parachute.
It's terrifying.
How do you keep moving forward when you aren't emotionally ready to be vulnerable yet? Like, what's the middle step?
You build scaffolding for your life through routine and physical action.
Scaffolding. I like that.
Think about it like a building. When a building's foundation is compromised, you don't immediately start, decorating the interior or painting the walls.
You'd put up steel scaffolding.
Exactly. It is rigid, it is utilitarian, but it holds the structure up while the internal repairs happen. When your emotions are overwhelmingly chaotic, you cannot rely on them to dictate your actions.
Because your emotions are telling you to stay in bed and rot.
Right. So you must become completely devoted to your routine. You wake up, you eat, you do the tasks that must be done, completely regardless of your internal emotional weather.
The psychological principle behind that is captured so perfectly in the source material with the concept that muscle never betrays.
Oh, that's such a great line.
It is. Because when you are profoundly lonely, human relationships feel entirely unpredictable. You trust someone and they might leave. You open up and you might be mocked.
That lack of control is terrifying for an isolated brain.
But physical training, or even just simple, repetitive physical tasks like cleaning your room, they offer a direct one-to-one return on effort.
Exactly. It is all about the dopamine loop of agency.
Agency. Having control.
Yes. Depression and loneliness strip away your sense of agency. You feel like life is just happening to you, and you're just a victim of circumstance.
Right, you feel helpless.
So, when human connection feels dangerously out of your control, lifting weights, running, or completing physical labor provides an immediate, undeniable result.
You put in the effort, the muscle grows, you scrub the floor is clean.
Exactly. It proves to your brain that your actions still have a tangible impact on reality.
It provides undeniable proof that you exist and can actually affect the world around you.
And that scaffolding prevents a total mental collapse.
But, you can't just lift weights and scrub floors in an empty room forever.
No, eventually you have to go back outside.
Right. Eventually that emotional turbulence starts to settle, and you have to step back into the world. So how does someone carefully begin to let other people back in without exposing themselves to immediate devastation?
The mechanics of reconnecting require a very, very pragmatic approach to group dynamics. The first rule is accepting what we can call the dead zone.
The dead zone. Okay, explain that.
We often carry this really irrational belief that overcoming loneliness means we have to become universally liked.
Like we have to be friends with everyone in the office.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But forcing a connection with someone who is actively hostile or even just completely disinterested only drains your extremely limited emotional energy.
Right.
If someone clearly puts up a wall, you do not have to break it down. Maintaining a respectful business-like distance is perfectly healthy.
Okay, so once you navigate past that dead zone and you start taking small social risks with people who are actually receptive, another highly pragmatic strategy emerges.
Yes, this is a brilliant part of the narrative.
We see this through a character named Timothy. He utilizes a really smart method for existing safely in a group, which is overriding jealousy with shared benefits.
This is sociology in action. Because when you are isolated, but you start succeeding or standing out, you naturally become a target for jealousy or resentment.
People start wondering, who does this guy think he is?
Right. So Timothy's strategy is to proactively share the wealth. When he wins, he buys the drinks. When the group makes a profit due to his actions, he shares the rewards generously.
I can see some people arguing that sounds manipulative, though.
How so?
Like you're just buying friends because you lack genuine connection. It feels a bit transactional.
I get that.
Hmm.
But it is not about buying affection. It is about aligning incentives.
Aligning incentives. Okay.
When you are vulnerable, you need a safe environment to operate within. By ensuring that your success financially or socially benefits the people around you, you essentially pay a social cost to turn potential enemies into supporters.
Ah, so you make them invested in your continued success.
Exactly. Their success becomes inextricably linked to yours.
And that strategy is heavily reinforced by using humility as armor, too.
Yes. Humility is key here.
Because when you achieve something significant, you immediately claim, oh, it was thanks to everyone else.
Humility is an invincible shield in a group setting. Genuine talent or competence is usually recognized by the group without you ever needing to advertise it.
Right, people know who did the work.
Exactly. So when you openly give away the credit, it does not actually diminish your perceived value. It just removes the threat you pose to others' egos.
Because people naturally want to work with someone who makes them feel important and secure.
It is a highly calculated, effective way to rebuild a social safety net without painting a target on your back.
Sure, but that creates a very safe, highly managed environment. It remains fundamentally transactional, like we were saying. You are trading rewards and credit for safety.
It is a stepping stone.
Right, because safe interactions don't actually cure loneliness, they just prevent further injury. The core question remains, how do those carefully managed transactional interactions transform into genuine, trust-based bonds?
They transform through shared adversity.
Co-suffer.
Yes, true. Deep psychological bonds are rarely forged in pleasantries or shared profits. Overcoming a severe crisis together creates a chemical and psychological bond that simply hanging out in a tavern or an office break room cannot replicate.
It's like the trauma bonding of surviving a terrible retail shift together.
Exactly like that. The extreme difficulties you face as a team in the present become the foundational assets for your trust in the future.
It reframes present nightmares as the origin story of future alliances.
Beautifully put.
But forging those alliances requires overcoming our own biases, which is incredibly difficult. We see this with Soldat.
Oh, Soldat is the perfect example of this challenge.
Initially, he is highly antagonistic. I mean, he is foul-mouthed, abrasive, and constantly insults our protagonist. And our natural human instinct when someone is a jerk to us is to completely write them off.
We devalue everything about them, including their skills.
Right. We just say, well, they're a bad person, so they must be bad at everything.
Yes, because the brain craves simplicity.
Yeah.
You want people to be either all good or all bad. Recognizing that someone is incredibly abrasive, but also highly competent and deeply caring toward their allies, it creates severe cognitive dissonance.
It is exhausting to hold both of those truths in your head at once. It's so much easier to just say, I hate this person, therefore they are useless.
It is easier, but doing that keeps your world extremely small.
Wow.
If you can develop the emotional maturity to separate a person's personality from their capability, if you can say, I despise how this person speaks to me, but I implicitly trust their competence in a crisis, you drastically expand your potential network.
A bitter rival can actually become a vital ally if you focus on the shared goal rather than the personal fiction.
Exactly.
Okay, assuming you manage that, you separate the personality from the capability, you endure the shared adversity, and you form a fragile new connection.
You're doing the work.
Right, but what happens when that connection inevitably hits a roadblock? Because misunderstandings happen. How do you navigate a rupture in a new relationship without retreating right back into the polite mask and the quagmire of isolation?
The initial reaction to conflict is almost always defensive. We immediately want to throw facts at the other person to prove that we are right and they are wrong.
Let me pull up the text messages to prove my point.
Exactly. But when emotions are highly volatile, trying to argue facts is like trying to defuse a bomb by hitting it with a hammer.
That is a terrifying metaphor.
But it's true. The source text highlights the profound power of silence in these moments.
Because silence prevents you from adding kinetic energy to the explosion.
Yes, it stops the immediate escalation. And more importantly, it forces the other person to sit with their own words.
Sometimes they just need the empty space to hear the echoes of their own anger, and they realize they might have overstepped.
And when the immediate anger does subside and it is time to repair the relationship, Soldat offers a brilliant warning regarding what we can call the misaligned apology.
Oh, this might be the most crucial piece of relational advice in the entire analysis.
I agree. Soldat warns that if you just guess why someone is angry and throw out a blanket, "I'm sorry," it will often make them significantly angrier.
Oh, nothing is worse than, "I'm sorry you feel that way," or "I'm sorry for whatever I did."
Because a blind apology proves you have absolutely no idea what you actually did wrong.
You aren't apologizing for the harm you caused. You're apologizing just to make your own discomfort go away.
Exactly. If someone is deeply hurt and you say, "Look, whatever I did, I'm sorry," it is incredibly dismissive. It communicates that their internal emotional state isn't even worth investigating.
So the mechanism for true repair requires you to investigate the core of the anger first. You have to listen and truly comprehend the rupture before you offer an apology.
Otherwise, the apology itself becomes a secondary insult.
It demands genuine curiosity about the other person's reality, rather than just a selfish desire to protect your own peace.
Perfectly said.
So if we pull all of this together, taking these concepts of routine as scaffolding, overriding jealousy, shared suffering, and careful communication, we can extract some incredibly practical applications for everyday life, specifically regarding how we function in workplaces or, broader social groups.
Yes, let's ground this in everyday reality.
The narrative emphasizes the unseen foundations of success, starting with the rule of preparation. Before taking any major action, we see the characters obsessively research the terrain of Lake Kukur and the specific behavioral patterns of monsters like the Lester Grizzly.
Right.
Stripped of the fantasy context, the real-world principle is that 80% of your success is decided the day before.
Preparation is fundamentally about reducing cognitive load.
Okay, break that down.
Whether you are prepping for a high-stakes meeting, a difficult interpersonal conversation, or simply stepping into a new social environment, doing the unglamorous, tedious prep work keeps your nervous system calm.
Because you know what to expect.
Exactly. When the unexpected inevitably happens, because it always does,
Yeah.
you don't panic.
No.
You have already mentally mapped the terrain, so you have the actual mental bandwidth to adapt rather than just freezing up.
It lowers the stakes of the entire interaction.
Yes.
Now, the second major practical lesson involves group dynamics and leadership, drawn from observing an adventure party called Counter Arrow. We naturally assume that to be connected, to be valued, and to escape loneliness, we need to be the focal point. Like, we need to be the leader.
Which is such a common misconception.
But the organizational wisdom here is the number 2 rule.
Being the leader, the face, and the signboard of the group is very often a trap.
Really? A trap?
Yes, because the leader acts as a lightning rod. They absorb the brunt of all external criticism and internal blame.
Yeah.
But being the practical number 2, the person who actually manages the logistics, executes the work, and controls the internal emotional temperature of the group, that grants you immense, genuine influence.
You hold the real social leverage.
Exactly.
So, to the listener, map this onto your workplace or your friend group. You do not need to be the loudest person in the room or the charismatic center of attention to be completely indispensable and deeply connected.
Not at all.
The person who quietly keeps the gears turning, who anticipates the problems and handles the prep work, becomes the structural integrity of the group. Those individuals often form the deepest, most secure connections because the group relies on them fundamentally.
Yet, they rarely have the target on their back that the leader does.
It's the perfect position. Synthesizing this entire journey changes how we view emotional recovery.
It really is. It flips the script.
When you find yourself in a quagmire of isolation, the exit strategy isn't some miraculous leap into popularity. It is a methodical climb. You survive the absolute bottom by building the scaffolding of routine and physical agency.
Right.
You refuse to let the polite mask hollow you out by finding spaces to be authentic. You safely test the waters by sharing credit and overriding jealousy, and you build true trust by enduring hardship together and communicating with profound humility.
It is a deliberate and often painful process of rebuilding your world one small, calculated step at a time.
And the core message here is so vital. Loneliness is not proof that you are fundamentally broken or that there is something inherently wrong with you.
Never.
It is simply a biological and psychological reminder of something deeply human, our fundamental need to connect, to belong, and to share the weight of this life with others. It is a signal flare demanding attention, not a permanent sentence.
That's incredibly powerful. And, the most resonant image from Rudius's journey leaves us with this final thought for the listener to take away.
What's that?
When he was stuck in that quagmire, he did not wait until he was completely clean before he started moving forward. He walked forward completely covered in mud.
Covered in the mud.
Yes. Consider the application in your own life. Perhaps you do not need to perfectly fix yourself first. You don't need to wipe away every single trace of your past traumas, your awkwardness, or your insecurities before you are worthy of seeking connection.
You don't have to be perfect to be loved.
Yeah.
Exactly. Walking forward, mud and all, might actually be the most honest way to discover who is truly willing to walk right beside you. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today.